Hi, everyone. Welcome to Let's Deconstruct a Story. And I'm here today with Deb Olin Unferth. She is the author of 6 books, including the novels Barn 8 and Vacation, the memoir Revolution, finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award, 2 short story collections, and the graphic novel I Parrot. Her fiction and essays have appeared in over 50 magazines and journals, including Harper's, the New York Times, the Paris Review, Granta, and McSweeney's. She has received a Guggenheim Fellowship, 3 Pushcart Prizes, a Creative Capital Fellowship for Innovative Literature, fellowships from the MacDowell, Yaddo, and UCross residencies. She's a professor at the University of Texas in Austin, where she teaches for the Michener Center, the New Writers Project, and she also directs the Penn City Writers, the prison creative writing program at a South Texas penitentiary. Originally from Chicago, she lives in Austin, and today we are discussing Wait Till You See Me Dance, which is the title story from her 2017 collection by the same name. Welcome, Deb Olin Unferth. Well, I absolutely love the story, especially since I do a lot of adjuncting, and so I just thought it was hilarious. The part about being an adjunct is so true, and it's so sad. But we could get into that later. So the first thing that struck me, obviously, was the beginning, because it's so striking. I know when people will die, I meet them, I can look into their faces and see if they have long to live. It's like having a knack for math or a green thumb, both of which I also have. People wear their health on their faces. I was just wondering how that came to you, how the whole concept came to you about knowing when people are going to die.
I mean, I think it was just that I felt like I was like, this story is so autobiographical. I thought that I knew. I thought that I knew when people would die. I mean, I don't know if I still feel like I have that power, but I definitely have thought often in my life that I have that power.
That you could just see it because of what they're going through at the time, because of how depressing a situation might be and how people are struggling. And
sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes there have been times in my life when someone seems to be doing amazing and I can look at them, and I've looked at them and thought to myself like that they were not long for this world for whatever reason. I mean,
that's wild.
I can't explain it. It's not something that I'm not witchy, there aren't a lot of areas in my life that I think like, oh, I can see the future. There's nothing like that. It was just, there was a time in my life that I felt that powerfully, and there were people around me who were dying. And so I was just very, death felt big to me and present.
And there is there's a measure of control or, that you would have if you knew such a thing, right? Whether you needed to help someone out or not, depending on how much life force they had.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that during the period that this story was written and what it was written about is, a person who doesn't have a lot of control and is around a lot of people who don't have a lot of control. So maybe you look for control in other places when you don't have a lot of control.
Mm-hmm.
There was someone I knew. Oh, no. Do you know the writer Rebecca Curtis?
Yes.
So I remember she wrote a story about Lyme disease, and she had some sentence in there that said something like, when no one can figure out what's going on with you, you suddenly start believing in other things that you never would have believed in before, like crystals or, stuff like that. I can't remember how she phrased it. I mean, she phrased it in some beautiful way.
Right.
And maybe there's I really connected to that in a way, and I haven't really had that experience exactly, but this thing about feeling alienated and feeling like you have access to things that other people don't have in your alienation.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So this was, you said there's a little bit of autobiographical material in the story. Do you want to elaborate on some of that? Or
I mean, yeah, I wrote it, a lot of it kind of just like it happened in a lot of ways that, I mean, I changed quite a few things, of course. I never pushed someone into a hole, or I never like abandoned someone in a hole or anything, but I did go to the dance
oh
and
my God.
yeah, and
Wow.
costume and everything. There was, I mean, there were so many similarities, like, the place that, you know how it is being an adjunct.
Mm-hmm.
I was adjuncting at so many different schools that it felt like I was, like, just living in my car and, like, driving out to the suburbs and, working downtown and, like, working on teaching Saturday morning and, like, nights, weekday night, like, it was
And
so
still,
horrible.
and still starving.
Yeah, and still making,
Yeah.
like, no money.
Yes,
Like,
I know.
I remember not even being able to, like, afford my phone bill. I remember I couldn't even afford my phone bill, and I was living in this horrible apartment, and they were about to shut off my phone, and I got a call, and the call was someone from Harper's Magazine saying, "We wanna take your story." And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
and then my phone went dead.
Oh my
Like
God. That is so perfect. I mean, that's exactly how it is. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
That
so
is
awful.
ridiculous. That is so funny. I didn't start teaching until late. And so I'm like now older, and they offered me a job adjuncting for 16 weeks for $1,900 at this one college. And I was like,
That's
what?
grim. No.
Isn't
I
that?
said
Oh,
no.
I said no. I said,
Yeah.
I can't believe that, you know? And
Yeah,
then she was
that's
like,
crazy.
can you teach intro to ethics? Can you teach intro to public speaking? It's like, it's so sad. You know, they're just,
So sad. It's so
peop-
sad.
it is.
Living the
Okay.
dream, man. That's like what
I
I used to
know.
say to myself, "Living the dream."
Right, exactly. Okay, so there were so many great lines in the story, but one of my favorites was there was a time I lived alone in the crappiest neighborhood I would ever live in and had few friends and worked at a place where the people I saw were all quietly abandoning their plans like I was. I had the faces of dying people all around me. And I just wanted to bring that up because, that just seemed such a perfect line and just so, there you are teaching in a school that should be providing a path forward and a future. And instead, it's a place where people's dreams are dying, where, you
Mhm.
know, okay. And then you made the decision not to name anybody except the narrator has the wrong name, Mary from It's a Wonderful Life. But
Oh, right.
there's the office assistant and then the two other office assistants and then the assistant chair and the chair. And I was just curious, is that just because it was an anonymous kind of deadening job, or did you have another thought?
I always try to avoid using names. Like, now that I mostly write novels, I use names, but it's like under duress. Like,
Really?
change the names 14, 25 times before I settle on one, and it's never like, I feel very uncomfortable with names, and I think it's because I feel like it's doing too much work for the reader. Like, I feel like you bring to the if you say, like, Daphne, you're
Mhm.
like, I know who Daphne is, like, I'm bringing Daphne to the page, you know? I immediately have an image of Daphne, and so it's
Right.
gotta be like if you're gonna do that, it's gotta be, like, the perfect name.
Mhm.
I feel like it's so much cooler to that, like, I have to do the work on the page of the characterization. Like, if it's just office assistant, then I have to build who that character is, and I have to describe them, and I have to, like, make them a real person, and I think I just used to feel it was just, like, uncool to use a name.
Yeah.
It was just, like, not artistic enough to use a name. Now I use them, but it's tough. I struggle.
Well, it's so I mean, you did such a great job of describing her. I mean, I it couldn't have been any more precise by saying that she was like Mary from It's a Wonderful Life, and like she's just about to close up the library.
Exactly.
It's so
She's
perfect.
an old maid. She works at the library.
Oh no, Mary. And Mary has no agency. And I had never thought about Mary that way, that George has all the agency in It's a Wonderful Life. If he hadn't lived, everything would have changed. And I'm wondering when you first thought about Mary that way.
I remember everyone's like, oh, it's the greatest Christmas movie, blah, blah. And I was always like, that is the most depressing movie. I mean, why is that a happy movie? I don't understand.
Right. I agree.
That way. There are a lot of Christmas movies that I feel that way about. I'm like, why is this happy? This is tough. This is like a tough lesson. Like, here we go. Like, you never wanted to do this. You hated it all this time, but fuck up. Christmas, like,
yeah.
So
like you saved everybody else. So who cares about your dreams and he never got to leave there.
It's a pretty sad story. And there's a lot of, I have that reaction a lot to so many different like movies and songs and things. So yeah, that's just one.
Do any others come to? I was thinking of Mr. Holland's Opus. That old. It was like a movie that came out like 25 years ago, starring Richard Dreyfuss, and he's a music teacher at a high school, and he just wants to compose and be famous. I mean, this is how I'm remembering it. It could be. And he never gets a chance. And then at the end, he's been there like 30 years, and his kids perform it, and it's supposed to be this really moving moment, like, it was all worth it. You saved all these kids. And I just thought, oh God.
One lesson that we could take, now I'm a little older and less jaded than I was at that age that I wrote that story. Now I would say that part of the lesson is that the process is the thing.
Yes.
That like he got to have these kids, he got to have this life he loved, whatever. That
right. He did compose, even if he never, he at least composed
I haven't
one thing.
Seen that movie, so I was thinking about It's a Wonderful Life, like that or that, both of them, like the lesson is, it's wherever you wind up at the end, that's not the thing that matters. What matters is the process that you're going through.
Right.
It's not a great lesson because he was like complaining the whole time and saying how much he hated it, but
But I guess it is a lesson for most of humanity. Most of humanity doesn't escape your everyday life, right? And so you have to see the good in what you got out of it, which is, not nothing if you have family and friends. But anyway, I don't want to get off the story. So the office assistant is such a wonderful character too, because, neither of them are very nice, because the office assistant says she looks like Mary, the librarian. And then she turns around and says, you're pretty and masculine, or something like
both pretty and masculine.
Both pretty and masculine, which, isn't bad, but isn't a great, I don't know how to take that. And you could take it a number of different ways, but let's say it's not a stellar compliment.
Yeah. She is pretty mean to she has a lot of negative things to say internally about the office assistant. It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The office assistant is young, and she's very persnickety, and she's in charge of everything. And she doesn't make any bones about the fact that Mary is the last person that she's asked to go to the dance. But this is just a minor thing, but it's an interesting point in terms of craft. You had the whole section about how there were two other office assistants, and they're always locked in this battle. So she was the only one that could answer the call. And I just wondered, how they made it in there. And they feel like, to me, they're there for a reason, that she's not the only.
I just wrote it down like it was. It was exactly true. I got it exactly right. And
wow.
But there was no third office assistant. Basically, you could never get anything done, period.
Okay.
No third. The third office assistant was actually a different person at the school. Like the person who I turned into the third office assistant was a different person at the same school, but not an office assistant. I just was like, what if they were an office assistant? That would be funnier.
So there was this class, as well? The
Yeah,
class
the
where
classes, I made up nothing. In fact, one time I ran, there was another, like a full-time person at that school, and we ended up like having coffee together for some reason. I can't remember why. And she was like, "Oh my God, you got it so right." Like exactly right.
oh my
Like,
God.
I'm like, "Oh, I did. I know." Like that adjunct office that was like a spaceship there and the
Right.
chaos, like this everything. That class was so ridiculous. It
Okay.
wasn't it wasn't 99. It was 100 was the name of the class, but I thought it would be cooler to make it 99.
I love that. That's the perfect number for it. And then, okay, so a third of the class fails.
But you
So,
could in the real world, you could take it again. You could take
okay.
it twice, I think, and you don't have to pay the if you flunk, you don't have to take it you don't have to, pay the second time. You do have to pay the third time, but you get it to take it twice.
Okay.
But in the book, I just made it in the story, I just made it that,
One and done.
yeah, one and done, and you're out of the school.
And then I love the line about the outside sources. That also was true.
Yeah.
But it like saves her from, I mean, they'd really have come at her if they thought she was grading it, or God
Mhm.
knows what would have happened. What did you think might happen if they thought she was the one grading? Maybe you'd get gifts all year long.
I got a lot of gifts.
Did you?
Like, I've never gotten so many gifts as when I taught at that school.
Really?
Maybe
Like
because
what?
I was, like, young and vibrant and, like I mean, I think that one thing that isn't really accurate is that I was such a true believer, and I just wanted them to pass so badly, and I wanted to do a good job so badly, and I was trying so hard, and
Would it make a difference sometimes, but not other times? I mean, when you're trying so hard, I guess, what percentage of people did you
Pat, I
yeah.
don't you know what? The thing is that I honestly, like, it really was like, you were really supposed to do your own class. So, other people would do it, and then you often didn't even find out who passed or who didn't. I would see people in the hallway the next semester, and they would tell me, "I passed," or, "Oh, I didn't pass," you know? It
Oh,
would be but it wasn't like I got a list of who passed.
right.
Yeah.
You just moved on or not. Yeah. All right. How about the student? So there's the Mexican student who tries to enter the country from both the North and the South, and then he doesn't pass. Like he tries everything and he didn't. So is that a true story you heard during that time?
Yeah, I mean, that was a real guy. I think he did pass probably. I can't
Mhm.
remember if he passed or not, but I might have just made it up that he didn't pass. I don't know. But yeah, that guy. Yeah. I remember he
Yeah.
asked me out on a date. All the students were always asking me out on dates back. I
Oh,
mean, I was so young and
of course.
doe-eyed and excited about teaching and excited about all of their work and, just rooting for them so much. And yeah, and a lot of them were, we were all lost. We were all just like, and a lot of them were older than me,
Mhm.
and a lot of them, like that guy in particular, he was alone in the country. Like he'd made it to the country. He got a job at some company with fake papers. They were like paying for his education, but he was getting his degree under a different name. And a lot of people come to this country and they have like family here, but he didn't. He didn't
Mhm.
have family. So he was like alone. I brought him to Thanksgiving. I did not date him. I have never dated a student, never. But I
Right.
knew he was so alone, and
Oh.
I brought him to Thanksgiving at my grandma's house, and or her apartment she was living in, and he brought as a gift, he brought her this photograph of General Zapata,
Oh
and
my
he
god.
handed it to her, and she was like, "Uh-huh," and she just sort of handed it to me.
Like, "Thank you." Oh my
Really
gosh.
funny.
That is
Yeah,
so funny.
it was a fun
Um,
adventure.
it's wild, like, when so much of a story is from real life. I think this is something I didn't understand when I was younger, and I thought, "I can't make anything up. I can only write what really happened." But one thing I didn't realize was how much of your real life you can use in fiction. And then where did you find, like when you started writing it down, for instance, if you had had a narrator who was like you, who was so enthused and happy and everything, it would have changed everything in the story. Like you had to have someone who was more jaded and cynical. Was that how you felt kind of inside at the time? You were projecting a different...
Yeah, I mean, you get really beat down, as you know, like when you're teaching all these different classes all over the place, and it got very confusing and I couldn't keep track of everyone. And by this, I mean, probably when I started, I felt very sort of just enthused. But by the time I was writing that story, it was like I was feeling pretty jaded. I'd like kind of had it. It's easy to burn out on that kind of a schedule, especially when you're not even making enough money to keep the phone on.
Absolutely.
So probably that's what happened, that I was so, by the time I was writing it, I was feeling pretty down on the whole project.
What about so let's go to the prodigy. Can you tell me a little bit about how that character came to be?
Yeah, that was a guy in the class.
It was. Okay.
Totally.
And you wanted to be a concert pianist yourself?
Okay, I did take piano all through college. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't say I wanted to be a concert pianist. I made up that detail, but I was very impressed with his musical talent. But this is the crazy thing about this school, is that there were a lot of students from abroad there, even though it was this like really pretty crappy school, but it turned out they had a very good music program. So I don't know why, but they had people from all over the world coming and wanting to be at that school mostly for the music program. And also because the university just kept letting them in. A lot of schools weren't letting them in, and they were pretty, they were pretty disorganized, I think. And so, it was sort of a different time back then. And so there were a ton of musicians from all over the world, and I would just walk through the halls where there were people just like, you could just hear behind every door, and there were these beautiful rooms. The building was designed by Louis Sullivan
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah. With Frank Lloyd Wright, like working as his assistant. And there's like this gorgeous auditorium, and there were like smaller auditoriums on different floors, unbelievable architecture and beauty. And
where was it, if you don't?
In Chicago. So yeah, I could just like walk down the halls and just hear all this beautiful music. And so I will say he showed up in the class like exactly the way that I described it, that they just like, he had just come from Serbia, and we were like bombing them at the time. Like it was exactly the way that I described it. And I didn't want another person in the class. The class was already full, and the chair was just take this guy, and all he had were like all of his belongings were in like plastic bags that he was like clutching. And the whole rigmarole that I wrote in there, I never had any kind of a crush on him at all. And it wasn't that I thought that his music was so beautiful. The project was so beautiful of this person coming here. And like, once I kind of understood his story, and it wasn't even like he even really told me his story at first. I knew where he had come from. I was reading the news a little bit, like I knew a little bit of what was going on. I knew how old he was. And then at some point he like told me a little bit more, or maybe he wrote an essay about it or something. I can't remember how I found out. So, but that in that class too, we all got really close because there were so many foreign students in the class, and there were so many musicians in the class. And there was like a couple Greek people in the class, and they were like, we have to go to Greek Town,
Oh, fun.
We all like go off to Greek Town and have dinner, like just, and I was like as broke as them. Normally if that happened now, I would treat everyone. I would take everyone. I'd be like, let's all go to Greek Town, and I'm taking the whole class out,
Right.
But, like I had no money, and I think maybe they thought I was going to pay for everyone, but I was like, you don't understand my situation. Like,
right.
I bet you that I have less money than you, honestly. And I felt really close to a lot of people in the class. And as I was saying, I was young, and some of those were, and then there were a lot of people who were from like South Bend, Indiana and stuff. And they were like first generation college students, just kind of trying to get out of an area that was very drug ridden. And, they were trying to, just like make a change in their life. And so they also really had to pass that, that class. And I mean, I taught the class for several semesters, but and I got close to a lot of people in the classes, but that class in particular, I'm like still in touch with some of them.
So do you know if any of them have read the story?
Okay, the guy who the story ends, the musician guy, he read the story.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
I think he was freaked out because he was like, oh my God, you were like in love with me. And I'm like, no, I swear I wasn't. I swear to God. No.
That's where the fiction comes.
Like it added a lot. Like without that in the story, it doesn't have that in it.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Okay. I don't want to forget about the office assistant because that's so pivotal. Like it's so crucial to the story. So they make this bargain. Well, she decides she's going to go with her to the dance. And at first I was trying to envision this costume. Well, I love the fact that there's so much cultural appropriation here. It's unbelievable. Like
oh God, I know.
I mean, they called it a costume. And then the costume is like ridiculous. And then the fact that she just assumes that she'd be welcome there. And then everybody's very nice and they'll teach you to dance. And it's like, well, nobody wants you there.
Nobody wants you there.
Nobody wants you there. And and she doesn't even notice.
Yeah.
I mean, how horrific. Okay, so tell me, you actually went, so you went with an office assistant.
It was insane.
And was
I don't know why I went.
The costume was like that?
It was a costume. It looked like Halloween, it looked crazy. It was like orange.
Oh my God. And you wore it? Did you go?
A detail I changed was that there was only one costume.
Okay. So she wore the costume and you were watching.
Wore the costume. She was a he.
Okay.
The costume. And yeah.
You watched him dance.
Yeah. And everybody sat down.
Oh my gosh.
And we're just watching this person dance.
I'll just say in the story, because I don't want you to
I know
have to incriminate this person, but
when this not have, yeah.
No, that's okay. In the story, with the character in the story, what did you think psychologically was happening with the office assistant? First of all, the mother must be sort of wacky to have made a costume like that, and even and told her that this is Native American costume, right? Okay,
there are just some weird people in Chicago. I mean, part of it, they're just weird people in Chicago and weird people everywhere. But also, I will say that, it felt this, one thing that I liked as I was writing the story was how, every single person in that story is, broken. And a lot of them are broken by forces that they had no control over.
Mm-hmm.
And, even, going to a reservation and doing that, I mean, imagine how those people who were, just trying to have their powwow, were feeling. Even they were, in the sense, having this reminder of, the kind of colonialism that destroyed their civilization, right in front of them. So there was just all of this, brokenness all around, everywhere you look, every single person is
right
experiencing this. And I have a lot of empathy for that. I had empathy even for the office assistant who did that ludicrous thing and was not a very nice person. I still was oh, this person is obviously, suffering.
Yeah. How did you come up with the idea of the hole, falling in the hole? And
oh, I don't remember exactly how I came up with that. I think I was like, I need something here. I need something. What is it going to be?
And when they go back and forth there and she thinks about either give me what I want or I'm not getting you out of the hole. And then she goes back and gets her out of the hole. And then she thinks, well, I'm not going to get what I want now. Then in the end, she does.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. And I'm just wondering what was going on in your mind when you were writing that. There's a power struggle.
I thought of the story as a Christmas story. And So I wanted her to get a Christmas wish. And in earlier drafts of the story, I had a few more kind of just like indications that it was like, I think at one point I wrote Mary, Mary in there, like Merry, like to just kind of indicate this is a Christmas, that's like the end of the semester. And, they're all going to take this test. And It's a Wonderful Life is about Christmas. And yeah.
Yeah, and then you have that parallel with It's a Wonderful Life, like, just, the angel tells George, "This is what's gonna happen. This is what would have happened if you hadn't been born." And there's the interesting part where she doesn't know the future of the student when she first sees him, and then she can see it clearly he's gonna make it because she made the difference in his life. And that was such a great parallel. Did that come early on in the drafting, or was that later?
I mean, I don't
Or was that conscious?
No, I mean, it was, the story took me a long time to write. Like
How
my
long
best
how
work,
long is long?
I mean, probably a couple of years, but
Okay.
I often have like now that I write novels mostly, it's really working to my strength, which is like the more that I go through something, the more sort of like layers that I see and the more complexity and the more just like connections I'm drawing and like solutions that I find. And I find things that are more emotionally resonant and more details and better dialogue. And, so back when I was writing stories a lot, I would have like 10 or 20 stories going at once. So I might
Wow.
leave a story for a month and then come back and pick it up and do another draft of it and just find another connection or two, write another page. And now I mostly do that with novels.
Back then when you would do that, and I'm just sort of asking because a lot of students that I work with, and also me, would you back then, would you send it out, and then if it was rejected, you'd keep working on it, or would you never send it out until?
Never send it out until it was felt totally done.
And
Yeah.
what is that feeling for you? Like, it's just a knowing that you're
Yeah, I'm
finished?
like, okay, I have finished what I set out to do.
Okay.
And then the editor will sometimes have comments or, I send it to some friends and stuff, but you have to be really careful with friends because sometimes friends give you bad advice. Not that they mean to, but
I know.
they just
Yeah, or workshops
very different.
too. Yeah.
Workshops too.
Mhm.
And it's not because it's not even because they're not good readers. It's not even because it's for no reason other than the fact that like they see a different story than you see. And for me, it helps me to hear what they think it should be, even if I reject it, because then it helps me know like, okay, I wasn't writing toward that. So that means that I wasn't writing toward what I want to write toward strong enough. So I've got to strengthen that part.
So what if you have a story, and this probably doesn't happen after you've been published in Harper's or wherever, but what if you have a story and you're sure that you have it the way you want it, and even though it is getting rejected, what would you do with a story like that? Put it away and slip it into a collection? Or I'm just curious because a lot of times people will ask, you have to get to the point where you're the arbiter of your own work, and that's not as easy to do when you're not well known and you're not getting published that as much. And so you can be pretty darn sure, I don't know, and it's not getting
I
picked
mean,
up.
I did spend years like that. I spent many, many years not being very well known and trying to get my work published.
Do you think you had that confidence then?
I'm not generally a confident person,
Mm-hmm.
but I have really strong opinions about writing.
That's good.
So I feel really confident. Like if I think that something of mine is good. I mean, sometimes I wake up and I'm like reading pages I wrote yesterday and I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever read. Or there comes a moment when I'm published, like I have a novel coming out and I was just doing the copy edits and I hadn't looked at the book in a while because it was being copy edited. And then I was supposed to go through the copy edits and read it one more time. And I was like, this is the worst book. Oh, and it just took me, like I go through that with every single book. I sit down and I start reading. I'm like, this is stupid. This is stupid. But generally, I have like an inner, I just like, I think I read so much and I teach so much, and I think about storytelling and about like, it's just like so much a part of who I am. Like, I know what I want to write. I know the books I want to write. I know what I want things to sound like. I know what I'm trying to do. And if someone doesn't like it, and if someone is like, we're rejecting this or whatever, I'm just like, fuck you. Like,
Yeah, right.
I know what I'm doing. Like,
That's good.
doing. But that was in a way, it wasn't a hard lesson. I feel like I was like that from practically the first story I wrote, but I'm not like that in almost any other part of my life.
But I think that's a wonderful way to be, actually. I mean, I think you have to have that. And I'm wondering if sometimes people can be disabused of that, in workshop, or if they show it to too many friends, or if I think it also has to do with your personality too. Some people have been through, they just don't
Maybe,
have.
but it's not my personality at all.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Really not my personality. Like,
Right.
very insecure person about pretty much everything.
But that's your one thing where
I don't know why. It just comes naturally.
wow,
I don't know why.
that's great. There was something about the fact that they drove out this great distance to go to the dance. And then I loved the way you described it. It was the kind of drive where you pass a series of billboards and road signs that the promise there will be snow cones, there will be rest in 48 miles, God is on the way. And I just loved that it was so different from the city, that it was a completely different landscape, and that I don't know, I'm just wondering where that location was, just out in a cornfield somewhere, or
Yeah,
yeah.
just like suburbs of Chicago. But like when you've been in the city, you're all like tight in the city, and then you drive out and it feels like apocalyptic almost. It feels biblical. It feels like there's just all of this land, and there's these giant signs, and there's like it really feels like you're making the great escape across the country, like there's someone
Yeah.
tied up in the trunk or whatever, like
I know,
or
it's
the city exploded behind you or whatever. That's how it felt. That's how it feels sometimes.
yeah, because there are all those cornfields, and it feels like you're just in the middle of nowhere, and if the car breaks down, it's over.
Mhm.
Um, okay, I wanted to talk about the last paragraph because there's a switch to the present tense, and I don't know if you have it there or I
I
have it.
do.
Okay, if you would read the last paragraph, I'd love it.
Okay, so what? So we look crazy in these pom-poms. Leave the poor assistant alone. Imagine what she must have been through to wind up looking like that. Imagine what her life must have been like having a mother who would make something like these. Imagine what suffering she has had that I will never know. Just clear the floor for her. Get out of the way. Can't you see the office assistant wants to dance? Would you give her a little space? Give her a little music too? A little bang on the drum for her to stamp a foot to? Well, the Native Americans were ready to see something like that, so they took seats in the bleachers to watch. And as for me, I may be an old maid, and may spend my life loving people who never loved me and loving them in ways that aren't good for me, but I stepped around with her. I danced.
I love that. And it's an unusual switch to present tense. It's like breaking the fourth wall. I mean, and talking directly to the people reading it, but also in present tense. How did that come about, that ending? I mean, you probably can't remember because you wrote it a long time ago, but
I mean, I do like ending in celebrations.
mhm,
I mean, I've had quite a few celebratory endings. I
mhm,
love juxtaposing this like things are so like there's so many things in this story at the end that are either really celebratory or really tragic at the very end. Like people are dying, there's wars happening, there's people are passing or not passing and have to return to, other countries and stuff. And she has not figured out anything about her life. And I feel like, so in the middle of that, to have this like celebration of just like, yes, everything is so uncertain and death is coming for all of us. But, we have this one moment. And even this one moment is absurd, right? Because they're
right.
dancing in these ridiculous pom-poms, but there's like there's still something there, there's still like a second of humanity and, an hour of humanity and grace.
I was going to say it's like a momentary grace. It feels like.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much humor in your stories and so much grace. I mean, just those moments, just little snippets of, and when you were assembling this collection as a whole, I was just wondering if that was one of the center points of it, or what, the theme that you were thinking about.
I didn't really, I spent a lot of time organizing and reorganizing the collection, but ultimately, I don't know if I really had any, if in the end, if it ended up, I know that the other adjunct story in there, which is called Voltaire Night.
I love that. Yeah.
In that one, towards the end of it, she says she's leaving. Like she gets a job at like a full-time job at a real university. And she, in the story, she mentions, I'm leaving. So I knew I wanted that one to come after the Voltaire Night. I mean, the Wait Till You See Me Dance, that you see her kind of moving on, it's a very similar character.
Yes. Yeah. I almost chose that, but I think that one wasn't available online. I'm not sure why.
Yeah,
I loved them both.
know.
Yeah.
And so I remember that, and there were other things like that in the collection that I wanted one to come after the other.
Like a loosely linked moment.
Like I want to move from this place to that place. But also a lot of people, they don't read whole collections, or they read they start at the end and they work their way to the front, or I know that people are like that. So I think that instead what I ended up doing is you get to a new section and there's a bunch of shorts, and then you get to a section and there's a bunch of long ones. And that I think that's how I settled on it.
Yeah. Well, what's the transition? I know we are down to the last 4 minutes here. What's the transition been like writing novels now?
I mean, I love writing novels so much. This is only my third novel. The one that's coming out, Earth 7, is only my third novel. But my first novel came out a long time ago. It was my second book. And then a few years ago, I published Barn 8. And so that was my second novel. And I loved it so much that I was like, oh God, I have to write another novel. So then I wrote Earth 7, and I think the next book is going to be Princess 6.
What do you love so much about it? What's the difference? Just being immersed in it for a long period of time and not...
I love that. And then, I mean, actually, there's a lot of that part that I hate, that I'm like, God, when is this ever going to come together? This is miserable. But then when things... It's like when things start to all fall into place, it feels so miraculous and exciting, and I feel like I have so much room, and it's just great. It's it just feels so fulfilling if you can get through that really ugly part.
And are you character focused from the beginning, or do you think of a plot first or character?
I don't know. They kind of all start swirling together. It's not so much plot. I think of setting. Where do I want this to be? What's the vibe? And then other things start falling into place, characters are falling in there. And a lot of times it's I'm just somewhere and I just start writing a character.
Nice.
And then I have to and then I want to deepen it. I always want to be asking big questions about fate and time and love and death.
In the story, there's the line about the musician where you never knew where his music was going to go. And that happens so rarely in life. And that's how I felt about the story too.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Deb. And thanks, Barbara, for coming.
So much. It's always such a pleasure to talk to people about any kind of writing. And it's really nice when it's my own writing. It's great.
Yeah. Especially when you say such nice things, right?
Yeah, we feel so privileged. And what is the date that your novel's coming out?
Oh, June 9th.
June 9th. Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Deb. Bye.